Hey there, and welcome back to Parenting Powerhouse. Let's talk today about parenting styles. Really, I typically try and stay away from labels. I just feel like they are those neat little categories that everyone wants to squeeze our kids into, and even us. But I'll be totally honest with you, I'm really not a fan. I feel that there are just way too many labels, and it can just get so overwhelming because it almost feels like they're shortcuts to understanding. And a lot of times we get lost in just defining the term, right? That then we start to miss the objective, which is what? Helping our kids with real and authentic solutions. So these labels to me, a lot of times they just add friction. They start to drain our energy. So we really want to find solutions for our unique individual rather than trying to, put them in this box. And today we're going to be talking about some parenting styles that are my favorites, the ones that I just kind of build my strategies and techniques around. So if we haven't met yet, I'm Tara Travell. I'm a certified autism specialist and I'm a parent mentor. And I've spent over 20 years helping moms like you navigate this wild world of raising neurodivergent kids. I know firsthand how exhausting it can be when the traditional advice just doesn't fit. That's why I'm all about mindful, intentional parenting that actually works without the burnout. And if you've ever felt like advice is all over the place. I mean, there are books, there are experts here, podcasts, parenting styles that you've learned about and you've read about and you've heard about, but maybe they just don't quite fit. Well, you're not alone. Parenting a neurodivergent kid isn't about forcing any one method to work. It's really about finding what actually supports both you and your child. That's why today I'm introducing you to my 4 favorite approaches that might just change the game for you. And I call them the CASA styles. That's conscious parenting, adaptive parenting, strengths-based parenting, and authoritative parenting. And CASA means home in Spanish. Isn't that cute? I think it is. I like this acronym because these approaches are really all about creating a safe, supportive environment where both you and your kid can thrive. So, of course, each style has its own strengths. And depending on your kids' needs, you might find yourself naturally leaning toward one or even blending a few of them. And believe me, there's no judgment here. It's really all about what works best for you and your family. So grab a cup of coffee, maybe take a deep breath during that precious alone time, if you're lucky enough to have some right now. And let's explore how maybe these styles can bring more peace, connection, and confidence into your parenting journey, into your home, into your life. So let's just think about it. Sometimes we feel like we're just winging it, right? Well, we're parents. We are parents facing challenges and new challenges every day. So we're kind of like a new parent every new challenge. Well, our kid is the same. They haven't gone through it either. So it's a new day, a new challenge for them. And it turns out that there are some really powerful approaches that can help us feel more grounded and connected with our kids. So at the end of the day, all we want is for our kid to feel safe, right? And loved and understood. Because when the world feels too big and too loud or too confusing, we want our home to be the place that makes sense, that place of peace, that sanctuary, that safe place. So, first up, I want to talk about conscious parenting. And this one is all about helping our kids build their own internal sense of right and wrong, not from fear or punishment, maybe, how we grow up, but from really understanding their feelings and choices. Like, say your kid lies to avoid getting in trouble. And instead of going straight into consequence mode, which may be a kind of a habit, what if we just got curious? We could say something like, hey, I get it. It can be really scary to tell the truth sometimes. Maybe you don't know what I'm going to say or how I'm going to react or what's going to happen next. So, can we talk about what was going on for you, what you were thinking? That kind of conversation opens the door for trust and emotional growth rather than saying, don't lie to me. I don't like it when you lie to me. Okay, where's that getting you? Right? It is probably making your kid feel like, whoa, they're lying for a reason. And a lot of times it's not to hurt anybody, it's just to protect them from what they don't know what's going to really happen next. So, opening up the door for trust and emotional growth is kind of exactly where we want to be, right? And studies even show this helps kids actually regulate their emotions better and develop stronger moral reasoning. And honestly, it feels so much better for both you and your kid. Because some days being a mom means what? Standing strong. And other days it means sitting in the mess with our kid, letting them know we're right there with them. Both are very powerful, both are enough. Then the second is adaptive parenting. And I want to be real here and honest. What works one day might totally flop the next. Have you experienced that? I sure do all the time. And adaptive parenting is really about rolling with it, at least trying to learn to roll with it a little bit and figuring out what our kids actually need in that moment. Maybe mornings are pure chaos because your kid with ADHD just can't get through the routine. And instead of forcing the same thing over and over, you try a visual schedule, maybe set timers, even break tasks into much smaller sizes, like tiny steps, baby steps. Because if the same thing is happening over and over and over again, then nothing's being learned. There's no progress to be made. Actually, we're teaching that same thing to happen over and over and over again, right? We're kind of training our brain. So, what is the research? Well, it shows that being flexible like this reduces stress for both you and the kid, okay? It reduces stress. That's what we want, right? I'll take less stress any day. We don't need to be perfect moms, and we have to remember that. We just need to be the moms our kids can count on through the meltdowns, the doubts, and the moments that make our hearts just swell, with pride and happiness. So I have another one, the next one, the S in CASA. This one is actually close to my heart because I taught middle school for so many years. It's called strengths-based parenting. And as a teacher, as a mentor and coach now, it's so easy to get caught up in what our kids are struggling with. And then it's also highlighted if they have a 504 or an IEP. But what if we flipped that? Like, okay, say your child with autism is obsessed with something like space. Well, why can't we lean into it rather than minimize it or try to redirect it? Maybe watch some documentaries together. Visit a planetarium or go look at the night sky. Get lost in their excitement sometimes. And even though it might feel like, oh my gosh, I'm just encouraging this, I'm enabling it. Well, what the heck? If they're really into it, they're learning more and more about it. Isn't that great? And they're learning something that they want to learn. And believe me, a lot of these kids, they may continue to almost like obsess over something so they can gain as much information as possible. And then they may just move on to the next thing. And that's okay. That's the way life works. It's just for our autistic kids, it's a little more intense because their brain is doing so much more than a typical kid. So All right. Not only that, can't that passion maybe spark some growth in other areas? Sure. They may be able to improve executive functioning skills if they put it to work with their, I hate to call it obsession, but it kind of is, something that they're really into. Maybe it could even lead to learning about other things or having conversations with people about it. That's okay. I mean, we're trying to teach them to love something, to learn something, to use it in their life. And, conversation skills, that's something separate as far as trying to keep them a little more focused. But at least they're engaging, right? So we have to look at the positives and think about it. When our kids feel seen and celebrated for who they are, their confidence is going to soar. And research shows this approach leads to better self esteem and resilience. And isn't that what we want for our kids? Yeah. And lastly, the last one that I have on that list, the CASA, is authoritative parenting. And no, it's not about being a drill sergeant. It's really about balancing the firm boundaries with understanding and support. So let's say your teen is struggling with school anxiety and doesn't want to go. Okay, if you're struggling with this now, if you've struggled with it in the past, maybe you will struggle with it in the future. But you don't want to just say, hey, tough, get in the car, hey, we have to go to school, because of course we're trying to deal with a challenge in the moment like that. We know that we're on a time limit, but our kid doesn't feel that. They're just anxious to go to school for whatever reason. Maybe somebody's picking on them. They don't feel comfortable. Maybe they're not understanding something in one of their classes and it makes them anxious. So instead, validate it and say, hey, you know what? I know something is hard. Something is really hard for you right now, and I'm here for you. We don't have to talk about it right now, but we're going to figure out a way to make this work. We're going to make it more manageable, but we have to work together. So, you know what? When you have the time, you want to think about maybe some kind of return to school plan, maybe get some therapy, or maybe even a flexible schedule, whatever you can do to make it a little easier, because the more you fight it, the more energy it's going to drain from you and your kid, and then nothing gets solved. So it's really all about holding space for their feelings while still trying to guide them forward, and whatever that looks like for them. And studies have shown that this balanced approach really helps kids with emotional regulation, which is something we really need, academic success, believe it or not, and social skills. So our goal isn't to control every outcome, of course, but it's really to guide and to empower and to show our kids that even in their hardest moments, they're never really alone. We're there with them. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, I want you to just remember it's okay to try different things. You don't have to stick with one thing and just try and try and try and try and try. Try to make it work. Because if it's not working, then you need to adjust, you need to blend, you need to move on. There's nothing wrong with that. Because parenting isn't about having it all figured out. It's going to evolve and change constantly. It's really about showing up, learning, and adjusting. And the fact that you're even thinking about this stuff, well, that's super powerful. You are doing an amazing job. You're here learning something new, something different. And here's the thing, these aren't the only approaches to consider, of course. Within each of these styles, there's plenty of room to weave in the strategies and maybe techniques you've already learned somewhere at some point along this whole parenting journey. And every family's different. We know that. And the beauty of CASA is that it gives you a flexible foundation. I want you to use it as a foundation. You get to choose what works best for you, your unique situation. Wow. Okay. So we really covered a lot in a very short amount of time. So I'm going to kind of stop here because I really hope that CASA styles gave you some clarity and maybe even a little spark of inspiration, at least maybe a starting point or a jumping off point. And whether you're drawn to the mindful approach of conscious parenting, maybe the more flexibility of adaptive parenting, maybe an uplifting focus of strengths-based parenting, or the balance that authoritative parenting can give you. Know that there's no like right way. It's about finding what works for you and your kid and giving yourself grace as you figure it out. Give yourself grace, and I want to add self-compassion. If something from today's episode resonated with you, one of the parenting styles, or just something we talked about, I'd love to hear about it. So send me a message, share your thoughts, or let me know which style feels like home for you and your family. And hey, if you're craving more support and connection, I'd be honored to have you join the Parenting Powerhouse program. We really dive even deeper into strategies like these with personalized support to help you feel empowered every single step of the way. So until next time, I want you to take care of yourself. You're doing an incredible job, even on the hardest days. So keep leading your kids with love and trust that you're building a beautiful, strong foundation, a true CASA for your family. I love you. Talk soon.